It's our time. The woman can in every sector. And in the wine, there is the big opportunity for the woman in the winemaking, in the marketing, in the promotion. The woman in the winery is have the good opportunity.
Welcome to Modo di Bere, the podcast about local drinks and local sayings. I'm your host, Rose Thomas Bannister. Today, I'm so excited to have on the show Angela Piotti Velenosi and her daughter Marianna Velenosi, two winemakers in one family who have vines in the Italian regions of Le Marche and Abruzzo. Before we start the interview, I want to let you know that Modo di Bere is a listener-supported podcast. Please visit patreon.com/Modo di Bere to become a patron to sustain my work sharing stories about local culture through drinks and dialect. Angela started her own family company in 1984 with just 2 wines and 9 hectares of vines. Now her award-winning wines are known all around the world. She has served as a wine consortio president in Le Marche and now also has a line of wines in the region of Abruzzo. Her daughter Marianna joined the company in 2019. Angela, Marianna, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk with you today about the local grapes of Le Marche and Abruzzo, but this is also a show about local sayings. Marianna, when we met this week at a wine lunch, your wines are delicious, by the way. You told me a saying about the city of Ascoli Piceno.
Yes, actually, Ascoli Piceno is a very old town. So it was built in 1000 before Christ. So it's more ancient, older than the Roman Empire. And in Ascoli, we have this saying, which is, Quando Ascoli era Ascoli, a Roma c'erano I pascoli. The translation is, when Ascoli was already a town, in Rome there were only hills, so there was nothing. This is why actually the territory of Piceno is a really old territory with a lot of history. It's beautiful to see, to visit, even if it's not so well known. As I always say, it's a well-kept secret of Italy because it has history, it has everything, mountains, sea, lakes, beaches, and countryside, but people don't know about it. So it's like a gem which is not discovered yet.
Can you tell us a little more about where Le Marche is located on the map?
Le Marche it's a region which is located in central Italy on the east coast. So we face the Adriatic Sea, Croatia, just to give you an idea. We are on the opposite coast compared to Tuscany or Rome, which are on the west. Le Marche, and then above we have Abruzzo, because actually we have 2 wineries today. So one in Ascoli Piceno, which is in the south part of the region of Le Marche, and Prope, which is the Abruzzo winery, which is located in the north part of Abruzzo. So actually the 2 wineries are really close to each other. And this is why we called the second winery, the one in Abruzzo, Prope, because in Latin it means close to, close by. So we wanted to take homage to the closeness, not only in terms of distance, but also in terms of root, because actually my mom, she's from Abruzzo. So for us was a normal to starting producing also the Abruzzo wines.
Do you have a modo di dire from Abruzzo to tell us?
In Abruzzo c'è un altro dialetto.
Sì.
Ok.
Yeah.
La strada, la via, si dice rua, come I francesi, la rua.
Do you want to translate for your mom?
Yes, actually the dialect is very different from Marche to Abruzzo, even if you are so close. You know that in Italy, even from one town to the other, you change dialect. In Abruzzo, for example, the street, the road, in Italian, normally the word is strada. But in Abruzzo, they say la rua.
La Rua.
La rua.
I love this. This is great. So, Angela, many of the stories I hear in Italy are of a winemaking family that goes back many generations, but you started your own company in the 80s. What was that like for you?
When I started, I was 20 years and my husband Ercole, 25. Very young, but hard work, a big passion. Now we are of the best company in Italy. when we started, we had no money, we had no family that support us in this business. We had no famous DOC because 40 years ago there were Rosso Piceno and Falerio dei Colli Ascolani, and no famous area, territory, because Piceno is a known area for the wine. When we started, I begin with 9 cantine sociali cooperative and 1, 2, 3 private producer. But big, in italiano si dice incoscienza.
You know, when you're young and you think that you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
Big incoscienza. But when you are young, you are like Forrest Gump. No? You run every day. You don't have the time to think the problem. You run. One morning, you wake up and say, wow, this is Velenosi. Velenosi now is 160 acres in the property, 2.5 million bottles sell in the world, 52, 53 countries where we export the wine. You say, wow, now Velenosi is this? Yeah, now Velenosi is this.
You just started with the two wines. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was this a big surprise to your family, this course in your life to become a winemaker?
My family doesn't support me and my husband, but also them, after 25 years, remain surprised.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loro non avrebbero scommesso su di loro, non avrebbero puntato su di noi.
My mom's family, they didn't support the winery. They didn't think that it might work. So what she's saying is that they didn't bet, on the winery. But today they realize what my mom and my father, they have built in 40 years. And even for them, it's a surprise.
Yeah, Marianna, you told me a story about your grandfather seeing your mom on TV.
As I was saying, since they did not support my parents with the winery, they did not understand, especially my mom, because a woman 40 years ago in a countryside in the central part of Italy, which is a really rural part, was not usual to see a woman going around the world.
Left the children.
Yeah, leaving the children at home with the father. It was something really unusual. So my grandfather wasn't okay with that. And he stopped talking with my mom for several years. But one day, there is in Italy a big fair called Vinitaly. And during the Vinitaly, my mom did an interview with Rai Uno, which is the national news. And then she left. She traveled to Australia. And when she arrived to Australia, she found a message on the phone of my grandfather. Because my grandfather saw the interview and he realized what she was doing. And that it was not just for fun, but it was to build something for the territory and for the family itself. So from that moment on, they realized what she was doing.
That's great. I'm glad that you were recognized. And I ask this question because I feel like in many families around the world, but certainly in Italy, sometimes it seems like there's this destiny or this idea for which path the children should take. I'm glad that you had the courage and the vision to create something new in Le Marche. So what was it like for you? You did grow up in a winemaking family. Was this your vision for your future? Did you start learning a lot about wine when you were very young?
This is true. I mean, me and my brother, we really grew up in the vineyards. While our friends were playing in the fields, we were playing in the vineyard. We grew up in the cellar as well, because every summer we spent all the time in the winery seeing, the production, even if we could not help, actually. We did grow up in the winery. But this is a funny story. Both me and my brother, we knew that we wanted to work in the wine business, but at the beginning, we were not sure that we wanted to work with the family. So both of us, we did 2 different careers. After my study, I started working for a French company, and I went there for an internship and I stayed for 3 years. While my brother, he did a different career. So he studied winemaking and he did a PhD in winemaking techniques, specialized on the East. And he was a researcher in wine. So he worked for the Italian Public Center for Researching in Winemaker. And he also did a research with the University of Burgundy. At that moment, it was 2018, 2019, I guess my mom thought that we didn't want to go back to the winery, even if we were in the wine business. But one day I was in Geneva because I lived in Geneva, and I realized that I missed something in my life. So I wanted to go back home and to try, to work with family and to see if it was okay. So I called my mom one day and I said, "Oh, Mom, what do you think if I come back and we try to work together?"
Big surprise for me.
She was really shocked. She didn't expect that.
What is the problem?
Are you okay?
She leave the boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, I had to leave a lot of things. I mean, a work I liked, a really good company that wanted to invest in me. I also left my boyfriend because, when you decide to move.
And about all big money, big salary. And when she called me to come back in Velenosi Winery, she thought I wanted the same salary. Oh, Marianna. Velenosi is another company. But salary, housekeeping, and more the car. She's expensive.
Has she been a good return on your investment? Does she help make money for Velenosi?
Yeah. The best investment I had.
The best ROI.
How do you enjoy working together?
It wasn't...
Not in the first time.
Not
in the first time.
The first year was really tough because she has a really strong character. I have a different personality. And at the beginning, it wasn't easy, even because we didn't know so much each other. Because she spent all her life traveling. I spent 10 years abroad for studying and working. So actually, we didn't really know each other. So it was like getting to know each other in adult time. It's not the same as you grow up with a person. Especially, she thought that I might have the same attitudes that I did not have.
Yes.
So the first year was quite tough. But also thanks to the people in the winery that they realized, these differences between us. So they helped us a lot. We found out the way to work together. And today, we have fun.
Yeah. Now is the best time together, best work in Velenosi. But in the first time, we have different character. Mm-hmm. I am strong. I don't cry. Marianna cry every moment. I am animal. Marianna is sensitive, completely different. Mm-hmm. And the first years I needed to understand our difference. Mm-hmm. But after, good choice.
And it was the same also with my brother, because when I went back to the winery in 2019, after a few months, my brother decided to come back as well. That we didn't expect neither. Today we work all the three of us together, and it goes really well.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you were able to return and find this. And so now you all work together to tell the story of your territory. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the different wine grapes of Le Marche and a little bit Abruzzo. I really like the white grapes.
If we talk about Marche, so let's start with the Marche grapes. Probably the most well-known grape is Verdicchio. Verdicchio is the king of the grapes of the region, well-known all around the world, the most awarded. But one of the most awarded actually in Italy, not only Le Marche. People know about Verdicchio, but sometimes they don't know where it comes from, because they have tasted Verdicchio. You can find Verdicchio in almost every restaurant in New York, but they don't know where it comes from, and it comes only from Le Marche. So Verdicchio is a real typical indigenous grape of Le Marche region. Today we also have another grape, which is the Pecorino. But Pecorino is a more recent grape variety because it was rediscovered 30 years ago. It was already in the territory as a wild grape, but it wasn't really used. So it wasn't produced 100%.
You told me this name for like a field blend. What was the name for the old white blend?
Falerio.
Valerio.
Actually, Valerio is one of the oldest appellation of Italy.
Valerio takes the name of the street, Roman street, Valeriense, Valeria.
Yeah, so it was the road that goes to Rome because they used to take this wine, these grapes, through this road, and so they give to the appellation Valerio. So actually, it's a really old appellation, and the Valerio normally is produced. It's a blend produced with Passerina, Pecorino, Trebbiano, different grapes from the region of Le Marche. So 30 years ago, we only had Verdicchio and Valerio. Pecorino was rediscovered, and the producers of Marche, but also of Abruzzo, started to implant this new clone of Pecorino. And today, in the only DOCG of Pecorino we have is in Offida, which is really close to Ascoli Piceno, where we are. And the DOCG is born in 2011. Pecorino is a grape that is growing a lot in notoriety all around the world and has some amazing characteristics such as Verdicchio, which are the versatility, the longevity. So they're two important grapes today.
Can you talk a little bit about how the wines usually taste?
Yes, so they're really different. The Verdicchio, has the name says, because Verdicchio comes from verde, which means green, the color. Not only because the color of the skin is really greenish, but also because of the notes of the wine. So you will find these greenish notes like green apple, honey,
Green pepper.
green pepper. But what is really typical of Verdicchio dei Castelli di Jesi is the feeling of like an almond, a little bit bitter aftertaste. This is the typical DNA of a Verdicchio. There are two appellations, Castelli di Jesi and Matelica.
Matelica is a very small area, not too far the sea.
While the Pecorino actually is completely different. It's a more structured white wine that goes more to the fruity part. Peach, apple, but more crunchy.
More exotic fruit.
Sometimes, especially with the hot vintages, we are realizing that the Pecorino in the OCG areas, which is different compared to the Pecorino you can find in other places, is going more to the exotic notes.
I get some melon, some green melon,
Yeah.
like a honeydew melon.
Yeah.
Or even like if you go to a Japanese restaurant, a sushi restaurant in New York, they give you these melon candies at the end of the meal. And that always makes me think of Pecorino.
Passion fruit. A lot of passion fruit.
Passion fruit is wonderful.
Yeah.
I just recently learned this wonderful word, transumanza. Why is it called Pecorino, and what is the transumanza?
The transumanza, actually, it's a really old tradition where the shepherd took the sheep all the way from the Apennine. The Apennine is the big mountain chain that we have in Italy that goes along all Italy. So it starts from the north and it goes until the south of Italy. It's like a spine. So the shepherd took the sheep from the north to the south during summertime.
May, June.
They started this transumanza. It's like a long trip, but with the sheep. And when they passed by the Marche region, they noticed that the sheep started to eat the Pecorino grapes, which was really unusual because sheep normally eat grass, not grapes. The shepherd and the people of the villages nearby started to call this white grape Pecorino because of the pecora, the sheep. Today it's easy to remember because of the Pecorino cheese.
Yes.
Everybody knows the Pecorino cheese. It's an amazing grape to work with.
Yes. And I'm asking this question with regard to the name of the grape, Pecorino. So that's wonderful. Now, there's another, maybe not quite as rediscovered grape, but a rarer red grape that I love, which is Lacrima.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Lacrima?
Lacrima is a very unique grape. It's a small area. Lacrima di Morro d'Alba. Some people say Morro d'Alba is in Piedmont. No, it's a village in the Marche region. When we have the best harvest, the best vintage, all producer can produce in totally 1 million bottles. It's a very exclusive wine. It's a very small production. The big surprise is you test the red wine, but if you close the eye and drink the wine, you remain surprised because it's the same flower, the same notes of the white wine. Violet, roses. Remain with the closed eyes ice. And when you test the wine in the nose, you feel the white wine. When you drink, you remain surprised. Wow, it's a red wine. Acidity, tannin is a very nice wine. The wine for the young people, for the woman, the wine for the fat food, like salumi, like sausage, like eggs. Is a very, very nice wine. For aperitif, is a surprise wine. When I stay in the testing, the people say, what is this? Wow! I call Lacrima wow wine.
And why is it called Lacrima?
Lacrima actually in Italian means tear, because the skin of the grape is so thin that when it passes, even of one day, the maturation, the skin opens itself and there is a drop of liquid that pops out. So if you go in the vineyard in that moment, you have like the impression that the vineyard is crying.
Tick, tick, tick.
And this is why it's hard to work with the Lacrima, because you have really to pay attention to the maturation phase. So it's a really sensitive and sensible.
Also, the vines doesn't have the long life. The vineyard can have the 25, 30 years, not too much.
So it takes a lot of devotion to maintain the biodiversity, even when some of the grapes or vines are not as easy to take care of. So thank you for making sure that we still have Lacrima and we still have Pecorino, and we are rediscovering these things because I think they're beautiful. So we started with more the rare red grape, but of course Montepulciano and with a bit of Sangiovese is what I'm most familiar with in Le Marche, but also in Abruzzo, Montepulciano is kind of the red and the white is Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, no? So maybe we could talk a little bit about those grapes.
When we talk about Abruzzo, definitely we have to talk about Montepulciano. Montepulciano is one of the most produced red wine of Italy. Speaking about numbers, only of Montepulciano, Italy produces 3 million hectoliters of wine. So it's one of the most well-known wine of Italy. But Montepulciano can be an amazing grape. Where we produce Montepulciano in the north part of the region, which actually it's a really small portion of the total production of Montepulciano. We produce Montepulciano in the north part of the region of Abruzzo, so in Colline Teramane, which is a small portion of the total production of Montepulciano, because 90% of the Montepulciano grape is produced in the Pescara and Chieti area, which is the center-south of the region of Abruzzo, while only 10% is produced in the north part, so in the province of Teramo. In that part, we also have an important DOCG of Montepulciano, Colline Teramane, DOCG. You know, the Italian appellation DOCG is the most important, is most difficult to produce because it requires to follow a lot of rules that goes from the vineyard, like the rendement per hectare, the yield per hectare, and to the cellar, so for example the alcohol level or the aging process. But the result is that we can have the best expression of the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. Regarding Trebbiano, Trebbiano, everybody knows Trebbiano. It's one of the most popular grape in Italy because it has been planted all over Italy, actually, in the old times. Because Trebbiano...
If you think Lugana and Soave is the same family.
It comes from the same family. So actually, you can find Trebbiano all over Italy, but with different name, as my mom was saying, Lugana, Soave, so they're all part of the same family of Trebbiano. But what we have in Abruzzo, it's a specific clone called Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. But Trebbiano was so used because it's a generous grape variety. So back to 80, 90 years ago, they wanted to plant Trebbiano because Trebbiano had an important yield per hectare. So planting Trebbiano was a sure value, like cash money. But today we interpret Trebbiano with a different point of view because we want to valorize the typical grape of Trebbiano d'Abruzzo.
So as far as Montepulciano, I always like to mention there is another episode about the Sangiovese from the town of Montepulciano. That wine is also referred to as Montepulciano, but we're talking here about the grape, which makes a lovely, dark, fruited, delicious, and wine that can be very approachable, but also very elegant. Your red wines have won a lot of awards, and I think they're very delicious. I was really excited to taste them this week. Thank you so much for being with us today. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about Le Marche, about the wines, about life, anything?
Le Marche is the unique region with the plural name, Le Marche, because Le Marche is a joyellery, is a treasure to discovery. In the Marche you can have the good holiday because there is the 180 kilometer of coast where there are 26 villages along the coast where you can spend the time for the holiday. But Le Marche is the region with the beautiful mountain, Apennino Mountain. There is the beautiful sea, Adriatic Sea, the beautiful hill. All the region is 70% is hill, lake, rivers, but is the religion, because we have Loreto, Madonna di Loreto, la Madonna Black di Loreto, is a very beautiful region where the people can spend the time, good time, and can drink wonderful wine, Verdicchio, Pecorino, and Montepulciano.
Yes, that's great. I visited another city with the Black Madonna in Calabria. That's really interesting. Oh, there's one more wine that I've never seen elsewhere in Italy, the wine with the cherries.
Oh, le visciole.
Yeah. Is that a Le Marche specialty?
Yes, actually, it's a really old recipe that comes from the Middle Ages. Because, in the Middle Ages, wine techniques, winemaking was not so like it is today. So they used to blend wine with the syrups. In this way, they can make the wine last longer. So it was the syrup, since it has a sugar, is like an antioxidation for the wine. When we wanted to produce a dessert wine, we wanted to take back a really old recipe from Middle Ages. And we decided to blend the Lacrima, so this special grape from Marche, with a cherry syrup, wild cherry syrup that comes from the region of Le Marche, that are called visciole.
It's like Amarena.
Yeah, they're
the same type.
I haven't tasted your version of this. I've had another one, and I thought it was so charming and delicious. So if someone tells you, do you want to try this drink of wine and cherries from Le Marche? Say yes. Thank you so much. L'intervista è anche disponibile in italiano. Il podcast si chiama Modo di Bere Italiano. But I want to ask you, how do you see, Angela, things being different? There are many more women working in wineries today. How have things changed, and what's your opinion? You've changed it, right?
I started working in the wine business in the last 10 years, and I can say that there is no problem for a woman working in this sector, in this business today. So I can just speak about what I see today. And today there are no door closed for a woman. On the opposite side, there is new opportunities that we can exploit because we are women. There are a lot of associations, organization of women in wine. I don't see any limit today, but I guess 40 years ago.
It's the time for the woman. It's our time. The woman can, in every sector, and in the wine, there is the big opportunity for the woman in the winemaking, in the marketing, in the promotion. The woman in the winery have the good opportunity.
Brava, brave. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your wines. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for giving us the voice, our region, our company, and at the woman.
Yes, I hope to visit one day. I hope that you all consider Le Marche as a place to visit, a place to go on vacation. And to all of our listeners, wherever you go and whatever you like to drink, always remember to enjoy your life and to never stop learning. Support us on Patreon. Grab the newsletter at motodiberry.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Modo di Bere to watch the travel show, Modo di Bere TV. Music for the show was composed by Ercilia Prosperi for the band Oh. Purchase their music at the link in the notes.